Hello and welcome to this special 100th episode of Consoletronics. Yes folks, it's been a long and at times pointless journey, but thanks to all you guys watching and everyone who subscribed to this channel, it's also been a lot of fun. But today, shockingly, is not about me. Today I want to dedicate this episode to a console that even after 2 decades since its initial release, I've lost none of my love and admiration for it. I am of course talking about Sega's ill-fated 32-bit, the Sega Saturn.
And I thought we'd kick proceedings off with what at the time was considered a killer app, a home port of the popular Polygon beat-em-up Virtua Fighter. It's hard to believe now what people saw in this game. The magazines of the day were falling over themselves, lavishing praise on it and awarding it 97 and 98% scores. I got my Saturn about 6 months after its botched UK release and was blown away by this game. For about 10 minutes. That's how long it took for reality to set in and realise that this game visually was truly a quantum leap over what had come before, but lacked the personality and charm of what made many a 16-bit fighting game so much fun. The sequels would improve the formula, but ultimately Virtua Fighter 1 is a bland and soulless experience which should never have left the arcades. Now before I show the next game, I just want to quickly mention something that I consider to be essential to any serious Saturn collector or gamer, and that's this thing, the Action Replay Plus cartridge. Now, besides providing the cheats for which Action Replay are known, this thing will also allow you to play import games on your standard Sega Saturn. It also doubles as a RAM cartridge for those pesky games which require the add-on memory, such as Street Fighter Zero 2, Samurai Shodown, King of Fighters, and many more. Also doubles as a memory card, so with this thing inserted, you are truly good to go. Also, this thing really only applies to European or UK gamers. If you want to get the best out of your system, you really need to get yourself this, a 50-60 Hz switch, which removes the black borders at the top and bottom of games that plagued systems of this era. So, without further ado, let's get back to our feature presentation. Yeah, you know what game this is. Unfortunately, it's confession time. Although I joined the throngs of rabid Saturn owners that bought this treasure-developed Saturn exclusive on its release, I am one of the few who was actually disappointed with it. Now I'm well aware that criticising this game is actually considered a hanging offence to some gamers, but in the intervening years my thoughts on this game haven't really changed all that much. That said, it's by no means a bad game and is fully deserving of the exalted status that many have given it. It just didn't tickle my balls the way I had hoped. Perhaps I considered it a step backwards when compared to contemporary PlayStation 1 releases of the day, or maybe it's the way that jumping along 3 planes rather than strolling around beating enemies up a la Golden Axe or Streets of Rage never sat quite right with me. In summary, what this game does well, it does extremely well. The multiple characters, branching paths and 2-player battle mode will provide weeks of gameplay fun. In short, a flawed masterpiece. Did you shit yourselves? Yes folks, next up is D, an early entry in the genre which would come to be known as survival horror. But as this was also on the PlayStation, why am I showing it off here? Well, 2 reasons. First, the talking head that claims to be the heroine's father can use astral projection but can't quite match his voice up to his lips. In fact, he could be saying anything.
Cross over to this side.
That's you? What's the scene? Any scene?
Secondly, and more importantly, the head of Warp, Kenji Ino, who developed this game, had a big falling out with Sony, leading him to throw in his lot with Sega, and famously said the sequel to D, Enemy Zero, couldn't be ported to the PlayStation because it would need 10 discs. Now this wasn't something new. Around the same time, Capcom's 2D beat-em-up X-Men Children of the Atom was released on the Saturn, with Sega calling it a coup because it was said the PS1 couldn't handle sprites. But as soon as developers got to grips with the PlayStation hardware, a PS1 version of X-Men quickly followed, and sprites were never again an issue when the future of gaming lay in 3D. Now, I couldn't do a whole video dedicated to the Saturn without showing off the poster child title for import gamers, Radiant Silvergun, the shoot-'em-up supreme brought to us by the boys from Treasure, who had a long history of producing classic games for the Mega Drive, including Gunstar Heroes, Dynamite Headdy and Light Crusader. Now, most of you have probably heard of this game and consider it a difficult game to obtain. Well, as a Japanese only release, it is uncommon, but it's certainly not rare. I myself have owned around 3 copies of this game, so for all you tramps out there who have yet to experience the thrill, let me show you what you've been missing. First of all, there are no power-ups to collect like you'd expect. You start the game with 6 guns and a sword. Yes, a sword. With all these weapons at your disposal, as well as anime cutscenes courtesy of Studio Gonzo, who did the animation for the opening of my favourite Japanese TV show, Densho Otoko, as well as many animes more well known in the West, like Afro Samurai. Overall, Radiant Silvergun may not be the greatest shoot 'em up of all time, but it's certainly a standout title for the Sega Saturn.
Now, it wasn't just action titles that populated the Sega Saturn's games library. The 32-bit era was the first time that many Western gamers got to experience a genre that the Japanese had been enjoying for many years, and that was the RPG, or role-playing game. Now, the Sega Saturn had many classics and also exclusives, like Panzer Dragoon Saga playing behind me, but that game was merely the tip of the iceberg.
Here, ladies and gentlemen, is an adventure game that seems to have slipped into near total obscurity, despite the fact that it's an indirect follow-up to a much lauded Mega Drive isometric 3D game entitled Landstalker. But while a Mega Drive game seems to have undergone a renaissance among RPG fans over recent years, Dark Savior here is the black sheep of the RPG family on the Saturn. Many other exclusives like Shining Force 3, Dragon Force, Shining the Holy Ark and others are held in high regard, but Dark Savior continues to be overlooked. True, it's not perfect, it's certainly no Final Fantasy VII or Grandia, but it's a solid, enjoyable RPG with fiendish puzzles and plenty of action, with an almost Pokemon-esque ability to capture enemy monsters and have them fight in your stead. In fact, the only major downside to this game, in my opinion, is the box art.
I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. You still would though, wouldn't you?
If you own a Saturn, Dark Savior by Climax is one game you need to own. There's a good reason why the Sega Master System was such a big hit here in the UK, trouncing the all-conquering Nintendo 8-bit. And that's because we in the UK loved arcades, like Fat Boys Like Cake. And early Saturn releases are full of Sega's best known AM2 games. Besides Daytona USA, you had Sega Rally, Virtua Fighter, Golden Axe The Duel, but bizarrely, no home port of Sonic Fighters. Now, I'm not much of a fan of driving games, but did enjoy the arcade game, and the Saturn port is exactly what you expect when you remove the seat, speakers, steering wheel and pedals. It's not that it's bad, it's just there's really not much to it. Although it's sold by the bucket load thanks to its name, and a sequel was released for the Dreamcast. It just has a rushed feeling to it, which may have something to do with the fact that Sega, having learned nothing from the mistakes of the past, released the Saturn a couple of months earlier than they themselves had announced, leaving third-party developers out of the loop as there were only Sega's own games available at launch, not to mention the damage it caused to retailers who never truly forgave Sega, and many stores refusing to sell Dreamcasts later down the line.
Yes, quite. Well, as we come to the end of the video, I thought we'd pick one more game to look at. And I'm not sure of contenders. I could pick from Burning Rangers, Sonic R, Deep Fear. But instead I thought I'd play a game which would require me to put aside one of the greatest joypads in all of creation and instead upgrade to this. I think you know what I'm talking about. It is, of course, Nights into Dreams.
Now, if you're thinking I'm going to rip into this game or tell you I didn't like it when it first came out, oh ye of little faith. Nights is one of those games that comes along once a generation. An outstanding piece of work from in-house developers Sonic Team. but it would be fair to say that Knights, unlike many other 32-bit games, has matured with age like a fine wine. There just really hasn't been anything like it then or now. Probably remembered best for the Christmas themed version that was given away free when you bought a copy of either Knights, Virtua Cop 2 or Virtua Fighter 2 in 1996. The real disappointment of Knights is that it was marketed directly against Super Mario 64. I mean, seriously? The lightweight airy fairy Knights against industry's super heavyweight Mario? The 3D controller that came bundled with it is one of the most comfortable and is perfect for fast-paced fighting games, but that also faced competition from Sony's dual stick controller. Talk about being between a rock and a hard place. Knights really was the last hurrah for the Saturn. The console would limp on for another 18 months before being dropped like an out-of-form striker, but while sales may have slumped, the Saturn holds a special place in the hearts of many gamers. Final Fantasy VII may be the game most people consider to have dealt a fatal blow, but the rot had set in earlier than that, with the release of the first officially licensed Formula 1 game, shifting PS1s at an unprecedented rate that Sega could never match, and with Mario's size 11 boots looming large, the writing had been on the wall long before Cloud & Company changed gaming habits forever. Many people would like to see a Dreamcast too, but whatever Sega do in the future, their history and legacy will live forever in the hearts and minds of the fans who keep the memories alive. So until Mario appears on the PlayStation 5, remember, to be this good takes ages.
Oh, I love you, Yuji Naka. So folks, there you have it. This has been my 100th video Sega Saturn Spectacular. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to your responses and feedback down below in the comment section. So if you haven't done so already, why not subscribe? Go on, help an old man out. I'll make it worth your while. So all that's left for me to say is thanks for watching, and I'll have some more videos up very soon.